Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show, discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and we can all take a breath now. The Dolphins opened up their wallets and decided to go out and finally grab a receiver on the market. But to be completely honest with you, I was not expecting it to be the guy who they decided to bring in. And we're going to talk about the Will Fuller signing and how it can truly change the face of the Dolphins offense going into the season. Before that great move happened, though, there was a signing on the offensive line, which did leave me wondering, and I think a lot of other Dolphins fans as well. But we're going to be touching on that signing as well. We're talking Matt Skura from the Ravens. But hey, without further ado, let's dive in.
Breaking news on HQ, Will Fuller is headed to South Florida. The Dolphins reportedly agreeing to a one-year, around $10 million deal with Will Fuller. That deal could go skyward depending on how much he plays. Remember, he's going to be suspended for the first game of the season, finishing out that PED suspension, which took him off the field the last month of the season. When Will Fuller plays, he's a one. He's a star. Problem is, he's had injuries and now PED issues in his career.
Day 2 came and went, and the Dolphins continued their steady approach. Other players signed across the league, including Kenyon Drake, who joined the Raiders. And remember yesterday when we talked about how the Dolphins had set the market for David Andrews at center? Well, that surely did not happen. Instead, New England wound up with both Ted Karras and David Andrews. And the Dolphins, who clearly just did not want to meet Andrews' number, decided to go their own way and sign a guy more to their mold. And by more to their mold, I mean cheap. The Dolphins brought in Matt Skura, formerly of the Ravens, on an extremely affordable one-year, $1.75 million deal. If that's your starter's salary, you're doing damn well. Skura is 28, so he's still young, and if he has a good year, he really could earn himself a long-term role on the offensive line. Skura came out of Duke as an undrafted rookie free agent in 2016, so he is a veteran, and he's been with Baltimore his entire career. He was a backup for 2 seasons before he was named the starter in 2018 for the Ravens, where he held on to the position and was really beginning to develop into one of the best young centers in the NFL through the 2019 season. He was really going to be considered, a guy who was going to be highly valued on the free agent market once he hit that. But then he suffered an injury. And then when he came back off that injury this year, he struggled, and that was kind of apparent. Not really in terms of how he played as a blocker. He was still pretty good for the Ravens, but he had bought snaps. There was clearly a mental issue going on with him, and he was eventually benched. So a serious case of the yips with him. And here's the thing. When Skura is able to snap the ball, when he's actually able to get it to the quarterback, which is the majority of the time, he is in fact a damn solid center. Great in pass protection. That's his specialty. In fact, he had actually a top 5 win rate in 2019, according to ESPN, and he is a proficient and athletic run blocker as well. He absolutely has upside. And you just hope that this isn't all the Dolphins do, though, to address the position. Although, yeah, Matt Skura does have this upside like we're talking about. But overall, you do hope the Dolphins look to the draft or look in other places in free agency to get position flexibility. Because although Skura has the potential of being that upgrade, if everything hits, he could be better than Ted Karras. Absolutely. They have the same mold, similar body type, similar skill set. But frankly, Skura is probably a little more athletic, naturally more athletic. It's just mentally, Karras was more consistent. So although it could be an upgrade, and if that's the case, it's a damn great move moving on from Karras. But he could also be a liability. And he could be the type of player who really holds the offense back. And listen, as a player overall, Skura is pretty athletic. He's capable of getting to the second level from that center position. You can even do some pulling motion with Skura, but with all of Greer's moves so far, I honestly feel least hopeful about Skura. I just feel like if the Ravens didn't feel like there was anything left there, they let him walk for nothing. They didn't really even extend much to him. So unless he's just a depth piece and the Dolphins plan on really using some competition there, I really hope that Skura is able to earn our trust at that center position. We don't really know how serious his snapping problems are long term, and if they are a legitimate concern, I don't want that. That's just not something you should be dealing with at the NFL level. And listen, I just really hope and doubt that they're that big, but you don't want to rely on that. And for that reason, I do really think the Dolphins will turn to the draft to find their future anchor on the line. Okay, so I buried the lead a little bit there. I will not lie, I did bury the lead. I forced you to listen to a little bit of center talk. I forced you to eat your vegetables before jumping into the goods. The Miami Dolphins came to terms on a one-year deal, notice the theme here, with former Houston Texans wide receiver Will Fuller V. The deal is worth $10.625 million with incentives for that number to go up if he plays and produces. And although we don't know what those incentives are specifically, overall, for a player of his caliber, this is a damn good contract. And the team has not overpaid at all. I don't think, even if it goes up to $12 million, $13 million, if he earns that money, because that's how he would get that much, I think it's a really good deal, because Will Fuller is truly a really type 1A, 1B receiver. That guy who maybe isn't a true number one on his own, but definitely deadly when paired with another top-tier wideout. We saw that with DeAndre Hopkins in his time in Houston, and then this year when he got to be his own guy and be the leader of the show in Houston, he really, really played well. And it's a good thing that we have Devontae Parker coming back ready to play alongside him. And if you listened to the episode yesterday, you know that I mentioned that I may not have wanted Will Fuller. And there was a reason I said that. I did not want the Dolphins to sign Will Fuller to a long-term deal. Although he's only 26 years old and he's never appeared, he just hasn't appeared in more than 14 games. That's my reasoning. Yes, he's really young, but and this is known. I'm not breaking any news here. He is very injury prone. And in his rookie year, that was the year he played those 14 games. Since then, it's been less and less. He's been banged up from a broken collarbone to a torn ACL, hamstring strains, and more. There's no doubt that you could legitimately see him play as a Dolphin in 7 or less games, and that would suck. But it's a real possibility. You never know. That's the risk here. You need him to stay healthy. Because if Will Fuller stays healthy, oh, boys and girls, if Will Fuller is able to stay healthy and establish himself in this offense, then he really changes the face of how the Dolphins play offense in 2021. Firstly, speed. Miami has no speed at wide receiver. We saw that at the end of last year. Just Jakeem Grant, and he's limited, obviously, physically, in terms of size. He can get bodied by physical corners despite that speed. So he's not really that true speed receiver you want to see. Will Fuller is. And not to mention that because this is just a one-year deal with Will Fuller, the lack of commitment is good for the Dolphins in terms of that long-term flexibility. If he balls out, they do still have the franchise tag at their disposal to keep him around. And if it's not a good fit, you let him walk. Will Fuller is a legitimate deep threat. He is essentially Deshaun Jackson, a modern-day Deshaun, in his ability to get off the line and use his speed to get open. He's explosive on that first step. If you don't jam him, if you don't hit him up on the line, Will Fuller's getting by you, then you better hope that you have safety help over the top. Because if the quarterback's able to hit the guy in stride, then it's going to be a touchdown. So he really has, the capability of taking the top off at any given time. And not only is he a true blazer who can just run past the best of them, but Fuller is a dynamic athlete as well with really, really good hands. He makes those catches deep down the field. So the conversion rate and the overall success of those deep shots really goes up when you have a guy like Fuller in your receiving core, because he's going to catch it. He's not going to drop it. And also, it's not just the pure go routes. It's the deep intermediate post routes. It's the fighting for the ball over the middle. He's proven that he does that. And listen, Will Fuller will be on the outside with Devontae Parker on the opposite. The way in which the Dolphins can now create route combinations and help set these two guys up is going to be really exciting to see. Fuller, as a burner, he takes the top off of that defense. And that's exactly what everyone has been clamoring for. It's what we've been begging for as Dolphins fans, is to get someone to take the top off, to really see what Tua can do. Obviously, and this is what all the haters are going to be saying as we speak, you need a quarterback who can throw it deep in order to actually use a deep threat. And yeah, Tua's going to actually have to prove it. You're going to have to shut these haters up. I mean, there's a reason that there's talking like this, because he didn't prove it. I mean, I argue, that he didn't have those weapons. And there's a reason we went and got a guy like Will Fuller to prove that he's fully capable of it. So yes, you're going to look at the tape, and I think you're going to see that Tua is more than capable of hitting those shots. Not to mention, it's what he made his name on at Bama. So now he's got a guy who creates more separation than a lot of classic deep threats in the NFL these days. So Will Fuller, like a Deshaun Jackson or even a Kenny Stills, I think he really plays similarly. Honestly, better though. He is better. He's not only capable of that deep stuff, but Will Fuller's also, able to make other types of plays because of the cushion that he's given. He's able to get chunk yardage quickly. Think about it. Two in the offense are clicking. Start the game running pretty well. The run game has been doing all right, but the team is mainly moving the ball through the air. It's, into the second quarter. The defense a little bit on their heels. They're down a touchdown, down 10 points. It's still earlier in the game, and Fuller was able to get behind the defense and kind of scare them. And so the corner's playing him a little off, just giving him a cushion. 1st and 10, Dolphins have the ball, and Tua and Fuller kind of have an audible or something, just like Tua did with Preston Williams in Arizona. If you remember that quick snap, Tua takes a step back, fires it left on a quick out route to Preston for the first down. You run plays like that all day with a guy like Fuller. Quick 7 to 10 yards because the corners are scared. It's the little things like that. No one is giving Devontae that cushion. No one but Jalen Mills, that is, because Jalen Mills is terrified of his uncle, actually of his daddy, Devontae Parker. But Will Fuller is going to be able to help create more favorable situations for Miami. Obviously for himself, like we said, by going over the top or forcing coverage to his side, opening things up on the other side of the field. Just his presence, a guy like him, super valuable. And another guy who's going to benefit, Mike Gesicki. Ooh, boy, Will Fuller's mere presence helps him so much. Just imagine this. Fuller's running a deep crosser, which he's going to be doing a lot of, especially because it's one of Tua's favorite types of routes to throw to. And he's obviously going to be pulling the deeper safety with him, and as the coverage itself is going to be drifting back and towards the direction that Will Fuller's dragging them in because he's running 30 yards down the field at full speed, you end up opening up space shallower in the middle of the field, and there you have Mike Gesicki running either a seam route, running a shorter, shallower crossing route on his own. There he is for an easy chunk play. You just create those options like we talked about. There's already two off the top of my head, and I don't even know what I'm talking about. So imagine what the Dolphins coaching staff can do now that they have a guy like this to play with. So I'm really happy to have Fuller here. The more I think about it and more I imagine him in this offense and how bringing in other weapons could also, help expand the repertoire to his disposal. But of course, he needs to stay healthy. And there are concerns, but again, that contract, the 1-year deal, makes this commitment not as, worrisome long-term. If it blows up, it blows up. That happens. But the Dolphins' long-term plans aren't screwed because they invested in the wrong, skill set guy. He is going to miss the first game of the year because he was suspended 6 games due to PEDs, so he's going to have to fulfill that extra that 6th game at the start of this season. But going forward after that, obviously, he could really be a big piece. Like I said, it's equally possible he gets hurt again early on, and this is just a bad deal. And that's the truth. As much as we can hope, that everything works out, we have to account for the risk that is here. Fuller is not a guy who has proven to be healthy. Like, he just hasn't. And neither is Devontae Parker. He's been a lot better, and you hope Will Fuller can trend in that direction. And maybe, the staff in Miami, the training staff, can really get with him and help him out. Maybe the heat is actually great for him. Who knows? But you're really relying on a lot of ifs here, in order for the Dolphins to hit 100% on this move. It'll probably be beneficial, but that's why I still think that they need to add elsewhere. Because right now, this is how it looks. Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, Preston Williams, Lynn Bowden, Jakeem Grant, Albert Wilson, newly signed Robert Foster, Allen Hurns, and Kirk Merritt. Obviously, a much improved, just alone with the Will Fuller signing, a much improved unit. Because having Preston Williams getting pushed down to that third option, having him in the slot, that's appealing to me. I like that a lot. And there's a lot of intriguing depth there who can really come in and help. But it's not very top-heavy, and that's the problem. There's still no doubt in my mind that the Dolphins need to address the position high up in the draft to get that high elite caliber talent. Throw in a Jamar Chase Or better yet, if we're talking just purely receiving threats, give me Kyle Pitts in that room. Damn, we're cooking with real gas then. Those two tight ends, you got Mike Gesicki and Kyle Pitts coming out from the tight end set with Will Fuller on the opposite, ready to take the top off the defense with Devontae doing his thing on the other side. Just try and stop this offense. You build a decent offensive line and let Tua decide which weapon to throw it to, which weapon to convert the first down with. I definitely think the Dolphins offense can do a lot if they add more weapons with a guy like Fuller. So look, the team still needs to add a running back like we talked about. I doubt that they go after anyone worth any serious money. They're probably going to add another depth piece for competition in camp. I know Malcolm Brown was just signed, and the Dolphins do have scat backs in Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed, but I am rooting hard, personally, for the Dolphins to bring in James White. Having his veteran experience, leadership, and great pass-catching ability would be invaluable to a young quarterback. James White is a type of guy who you would want to bring into an offense because he knows how it's done. He's a guy you want there on third and medium to convert. He knows where to leak out to in the zone to convert that first down. Just because I've seen him do it a lot in New England, and he's available. And the Dolphins could really use a back who is going to play really heady. But again, the Dolphins might not want to invest there, and that's fine. It is the running back position. We're going to find out where they decide to go and whether they address that spot, like I said, via the free agency or via the draft.
No first quarter touchdowns for the Texans. Watson throws. End zone, there it is. Will Fuller.
Good call there, Kenny. This is a heck of a throw by Deshaun Watson. I mean, it helps to have a howitzer for an arm.
From the Falcons 33, off the play fake. Watson with loads of time. Fires downfield to the end zone. Touchdown. Second of the first half for Will Fuller. 33 yards.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the PhinsPod. That's going to do it for us here. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Getting Will Fuller just made things a lot more fun. We now have a guy that this weekend we can go salivate over every single highlight video that's on YouTube. I cannot wait. And I'm going to just convince myself that we got, you know what? Will Fuller is a true number one. After this weekend's YouTube binge, I think the only thing holding him back is injury. But we'd be talking about him with the elites of the elite if he played 16 games for ever since he came in. That's what we'll be saying come next week because of all of the propaganda that we'll be spewing in our heads. But I can't wait. And yes, in all those clips, there will be Deshaun Watson throwing him those touchdowns. So see what you think there too. We keep an open mind here at the pod, and our number one priority is just simple. It's the Miami Dolphins winning, baby. That's all we care about. But please remember to like the video as well if you enjoyed the show, and subscribe just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins. Please remember that PhinsPod is available on all platforms. So if you caught us on YouTube today or Spotify or wherever, you can find us wherever else. So subscribe everywhere. Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and of course, YouTube. Continue with the conversation on PhinsPod at Instagram and YouTube. And check out the site for news and content, PhinsPod.com. I hope you guys have an amazing day. And until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.